Yeah, man. So, we'll start, I guess officially, but like I said, it's an honor. Definitely want to, as much as you can remember, I want to kind of get into your story. Obviously, I'm a
Yeah,
huge fan of the Brooklyn Kids record, so I definitely want to talk about that quite a bit.
that's a
I
that's a
I think
true
it's a phenomenal.
story.
I think it's a phenomenal record, man. Honestly, I honestly, real shit. I think you crafted one of the greatest hip hop records ever. Low key.
Thank you,
No,
brother.
real
And
talk.
it's a true story.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I
you
ain't
can
making
tell, like,
shit
you
up
can't
either.
just write, you can't make shit up like that. That's like, that shit is
Yeah,
too real. Like, you know what I mean? But we'll get into all that.
yeah.
I guess my first question, bro, is, why Gemini the Gifted One? Where does that name come from?
Well, my name as a rapper when I was a young boy was Gemini, but I got with another rapper, and he kind of got me my first manager. And then as we were doing demos, shop deals, and all of that, he heard me say that line, and he just said, "Yo, you should keep that. That should be your name." So I was like, "You
Uh,
sure?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right," and it was born.
int-
So it was a line, and then somebody else pointed out like, "You should keep that moniker." So I kept it.
okay, cool. I always wondered if it was like a special ed thing because, special ed's like, I'm talented. Yes, I'm gifted. I don't know. I thought maybe you got it from there, kind of
Nah, he
inspired,
got
whatever.
that was after the fact, and I thought he got it from me. To be honest, he probably didn't. He
Okay.
probably didn't. But when I heard that record, I was like, he got that thought, that idea from me. But
Ah,
he's a great artist himself, so he probably. But that's what I thought.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, if you can give me the timeline, so I guess, what year did you kind of really start to take rapping seriously?
So take it seriously. Hmm. I would say like 80 something, 86, some shit like that. Maybe like 86 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were out there just trying to, you know, see, you got one thing about me. I remember everything two ways. I remember everything musically. Historically, I remember things musically, and I remember them elementally. So I'll be like,
Okay.
"Yo, it was cold that day. It was nice that day. It was a
Okay.
beautiful summer afternoon." Shit like that, and
Right.
musically. Like I remember where I was musically. So when we were out, me and my old partner, God bless his dead, J. Cool, as my first rap partner. I was in a rap group called what the fuck is his name? It'll come back to me. But J. Cool, that was my main guy. And we were shopping deals up at like Next Plateau and all of the labels that was out that time trying to get a deal. I remember going up to, I think it was Next Plateau, and seeing EPMD outside. I'm a young boy at the time.
Wow.
I
Okay.
didn't know them dudes was fucking 6'5" and
Yeah.
all that shit. I'm like, God
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
And
He's
we get
tall.
up,
He's pretty tall.
yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we go upside, we go up in the office, and that young lady that sang "Come Into My Life," I got so much love. So she's a receptionist in the office. I think her name is Joyce Sims. I think she's up there
Okay.
reception in the office. So whatever year that was,
Okay.
that's when that's when I was like, I was rhyming long before that, but that's when we were like really trying to began the quest of trying to get a deal as young teenagers. We were trying to get a deal back then.
Got
Yeah,
you. Got you. Okay. Now,
actively out there. Yeah,
got you. You were telling me, a little earlier that you grew up like singing in the church, right?
yeah.
Um, and I think this is fascinating. So I'm a Canadian cat. I didn't really experience that, but I lived in Brooklyn for some years, and a really good
Are
friend of
you
mine.
are you Canadian?
I'm Canadian, man. I'm from Toronto.
You know Turu.
I do know him too. I mean, I don't know him personally, but yeah, I'm definitely familiar with him.
I'm on Turu's album. We did two songs on there. It's called "Hold Your Thought, Don't Lose Your Train of Thought."
Yeah, yeah.
It's called "Rudimental 2K." Foul March is on it. I'm on it. Socrates is on it. Judy Black is on it. It's a bunch. It was the
Okay.
first Canadian hip hop record that meshed UK and US artists, and it won your Juno Award. It won two Juno Awards, and it went a couple times platinum for your standard for
Damn. Okay.
Canadian
Okay.
numbers. But it went a couple times platinum, and I got two songs on it. One with Glenn Lewis,
That I heard that one. Yeah, for sure.
And the other one is just me by myself. But yeah, I didn't know you were Canadian. Big up, T
Yeah,
Dot.
man. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was, you know, my whole story is real interesting. I mean, I was born in Canada. I was born in Toronto, but I actually
Right.
grew up overseas. I'm Nigerian, so like I lived in Nigeria for some years. I lived
Oh,
in Saudi Arabia for many years. I went to high school in Saudi Arabia and shit like that. And so I've
wow.
been around, man.
You're
Yeah.
an Army brat?
Kind of. I mean, not really, but my parents, it's just, you know, my dad worked for the military hospitals and things like that back in Saudi Arabia. So
Okay,
I
okay.
kind of had that life, you know, to a certain degree. And I think that's a big reason why I became such a hip hop fanatic, because it's like one of those things, you know, music has always been my like companion in a sense. And also like when you're traveling, you meet all kinds of people. Like I remember meeting people from New York, like in Saudi, who were like, yo, this is what I'm listening to and shit like that. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
So, and I just gravitated to it anyways. And my father, you know, my parents are African, Nigerian, but like people have to remember, like back in their day in the 60s, 70s, like there really was a very like close connection with all black folk. You know, like
Right. That's a fact.
we were huge James Brown fans, huge MJ
Right,
fans. Like
right.
there was that connection, Fela, like overseas and things like that. So
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
a lot of American music made its way, obviously, Black American music made its way over to us, and we love that shit. We love y'all on some real stuff. You know what I
Absolutely. In
mean?
South Africa, back during the, I don't know if it was the 30s, but when in the
Yeah.
heyday of jazz over here, South Africa had its own version of that going on over there.
For
Miriam
sure.
Makeba and all of them were
Right, right.
involved in it.
100% fire.
I went and I did the history on. They was dressed like us, and they
Yeah.
were doing jazz like us as well as their own, and
Right.
as well as fusions. And I thought that was interesting because even as a kid, I always wondered at each phase of when I was growing up, whatever music I was into, my mind just used to drift off, and I would wonder if what we were doing and listening to were people in other places in the world. What were they listening to, or were they listening to what we were listening to? I used to wonder that as a kid all the time. Back
Wow.
when people were taking a cassette tape and they
Yeah.
go wherever, and then that cassette tape blow up and they make more tapes of it. I used to
Yeah.
wonder, and even locally, like people don't really realize now that, let's say 1983, right? Let's say 1983. I'm a little young nigga running around. We don't know what they're doing in DC. If you ain't been
Right.
to DC, we don't know
That's
what they're
real.
doing in DC.
That's real.
We know Chuck Brown got a record, that one classic record that Chuck Brown got, but we
Right.
don't know what's the movement in DC
Right.
until people don't know this chronologically. They don't know that, they don't remember that before Minister Society came out, we did not really know the landscape of what was taking place in South Central and all those places. We didn't know.
Exactly. Right. 100%.
Those movies were our window into that. But what I came to realize is, and even through shows like BMF, what I came to realize is they were copying us.
Right.
They
1000%.
kind of knew what we were doing. We didn't
Right.
know what they were doing. And they
Right.
had
Right.
their
Right.
own regional artists that were celebrities out there and all of that. But they knew the Run DMCs. They knew the Fat Boys. They knew Curtis Blow. They knew
Right.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Like they knew our hip hop icons. They were familiar with it. We didn't know what the fuck was going on out there, or if they were listening to us at all. So like shows like BMF show that we had an influence on the music landscape out there. But as a kid, I used to wonder what was going on
I mean,
everywhere else.
listen, hip hop goes far, man. I remember I had this really like kind of bugged out experience. I think I was at Bedvine.
Mm-hmm.
Um was that that's in Bed-Stuy, right? Like the Bedvine Bar and Brew, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's the
was
best.
yeah. So I was hanging out there and I remember bumping into a cat who was he was actually, I think he was from South Central.
Right.
And I was taught and we were talking about how there's this G-Dep record where G-Dep is rapping about in '89 I was wearing with the nine, in 1990 I was doing this and that, and we were
Right.
talking about how we both heard that record like at
Mm-hmm.
this the same year around the same time, and he was like living because he's from South Central, so he was like
Right.
saying how that record hit him really hard because even
Right.
though it's a New York record and he's from LA, like he could relate to what G-Dep was saying.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
And I was telling him how crazy it was that I was in Saudi Arabia. I'm like in like another side of the world. And I'm listening to that same record on some like, yo,
Yeah,
I understand what this dude is saying. Like, even though there's no like projects around me or anything like that, but that's just
right.
the connection of how the music goes. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and it just speaks to black folk, brothers, sisters, like across mad
Yeah.
landmass and shit like that, you know?
Bust this. The same thing that we're talking about happened in reverse when MTV came out. Because when MTV came out, we in the hood got an opportunity to hear the music being made overseas, Britain in particular, London in particular, but Germany, London, because Kraftwerk and all of that was before that. But we got a chance to see all of that. We got a chance to hear the music that they were making at that time. And in their videos, we got a chance to see what the aesthetic looked like in their neighborhoods, in their hoods for the first time. And I remember I got a producer, he a white boy, it's my main man. Actually, we got a new single coming out. His name is Dub L. And I remember back in the days when we first got together, he was surprised when I used to tell him, yo, we had MTV in the hood too. Like all these pop
Oh, he
records
was
that
okay.
you love,
Right.
he didn't realize that we in the hood loved them too. He said, "Where y'all like?" I was like, "I love all that shit, nigga. All that oingo, boingo, all of that new shoes, all of that. Fuck, like I like all of that shit that was popping at the time." But he didn't realize that. But my point is that was a window into that world, and they were. I'm sure they probably didn't even realize how much they was influencing what we were doing over here,
Right.
and vice versa. Prior to MTV, we are not realizing how the influence that what we're having was having over there. You dig what I'm saying? To create a
100%.
band like Loose Ends and so on and so forth, you know. So anyway,
So,
that's
to get back to the whole Brooklyn and church
yeah,
thing, because I didn't, I kind of knew more about that having lived in Brooklyn. I got a really good friend from Bed-Stuy. She grew up in the church and she
right,
was talking about how, like that's just the thing. Like, I don't know if it's specifically a I mean, it's not just a Brooklyn thing. I know that, but what I'm trying to say is that I am curious. I do wonder because Brooklyn, there's a lot of churches in Brooklyn. For those of y'all who've never been to Brooklyn, don't know Brooklyn. Brooklyn's
mm,
like there's a ton of churches. Like you don't, in a way, almost you don't really see in other boroughs personally. At least I'm
right,
saying this as an outsider. Um,
right.
but I always wonder what was that experience like singing in church? Did it spark? Was there any hip hop there? Like, did you rhyme in church, or was there like something completely different?
Not at all.
Yeah,
I would rhyme. Excuse me. I would sing in groups with friends of mine who were because I wasn't really a church guy. I just like to sing.
got you.
And was familiar with gospel through my grandmother. She used to listen to it every Sunday morning. But I didn't grow up in the church or anything like that. So when I got to a certain age, there were friends of mine who were quote unquote preachers' kids and church kids and all of that. And they had groups. And so I would join those groups and I would go sing with them in different churches and so on and so forth. So now there wasn't no hip hop up in there. It was just, and I'll keep it 100, I was in there because I love to sing and girls. That's it.
Okay, of course, ladies.
You know what I mean? It was girls in there who liked my voice, and it was an outlet for me to be able to sing.
Got you,
You know what
got
I
you.
mean? And singing
Now,
was a problem with hip hop when I first started doing it, but we can get into
okay, got you. So also, I remember reading like an article. I found something in the rap pages about your influences, and you were saying that sorry, not well, Kaz might maybe, but you were specifically mentioned Melle and Rakim
Yeah,
as
yeah,
like
yeah.
your greatest influences. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, man, are
And
there
later
any other?
Biggie.
Sorry, what?
Biggie later.
Biggie later. Okay.
Yeah.
So what made them special to you?
The type of well, for the time when Melle was doing his thing, I'm a little guy. These are older guys to me. These are big guys to me. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at Kumo D. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at all the cats of that time. There was a guy that I loved. He wasn't one of my major influences, but I loved him, and I think LL got his first style from him. He made that Tila Rock.
Tila Rock, right.
Tila Rock.
It's yours.
He
Yeah.
It's yours, and LL's first record, or one of his first records, I hope he don't kill me for this, but
No,
we
no,
all
but
thought
it's well known. People know. Yeah, yeah.
we thought it was a bite off
It
of.
was a bite. Yeah, yeah. People know. Yeah, yeah.
That's what we thought. But
Yeah.
so in that time, I'm looking at them. I loved Kumo D, but Melle was just for me. He was more in your face, and he was a more prolific songwriter. Like when he wrote White Line, that was totally different than anything he had done. But prior to that, when he wrote Don't Push Me, because I'm close to the edge, that was different than anything that he had done, that the group had done prior to that, or that was being done in hip hop. So I was influenced by that with him.
Got you.
You know, he was a great MC for his time. He was a great songwriter for his time. And he was very aggressive and in your face also. You know what I mean? So that was Melle. Rakim changed the paradigm. I came home from school one day. My man was in the crib. My man J. Cool, God bless J. Cool. He said, "I got something you got to hear. Mafia God's Projects in Brooklyn." I said, "What?" He takes the tape, he put it in. We listened to that shit into the night. It was like
Really?
that.
Damn.
We listened to it. It was.
Yeah. My melody.
That shit, check out my melody. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh shit, I got to switch this up. I got to upgrade my shit. I got to, because he was the first hip hop artist of influence. I'm not gonna say he was the first to do it because somebody might come and say, no, so and so did it. But he was the first one of major influence who didn't yell. He just talked.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was ha.
Right,
Sucker
right,
MCs who did not learn. It was all of that shit. You know what I mean?
right,
Which I love.
right.
But when he came with, I came through the door. I said it before. Niggas was like, I ain't never heard nothing like this before. I gotta
Yeah.
change. I gotta upgrade my shit. And it literally, you know, I don't know about artists today, but at that time, it was very competitive. So you saw things and heard things, and you're like, oh, I gotta step my game up. I don't think they think like that at all now. They're
No,
like,
not
get
at all.
money,
No,
you
no,
know.
not
And
at
I
all.
understand, You getting money. Money blinds you. So I understand, you know, but we were competitive. So when I heard that shit, I was like, I gotta step my game up. You know what I mean? Because he was the truth. And I'll tell you something else. I've always wanted to say this. I've never heard it said. Might have been said, but I've never heard it said. In the time when major hip hop icons were battling each other, nobody wanted to battle Rakim. They never uttered his name on no battle shit. Not Coogee Rap, not Big Daddy Kane, not KRS-One, not Kumo D. They may have said it to each other and in other rap circles that I'm not privy to, but publicly, there was no throwing out the fish hook, being like, yo, Rakim, you want it? Let's get it. I never heard it. I
So
never heard
I'm
it.
curious, right? How do you
Yeah,
feel as a Brooklyn nigga, right?
yeah,
Because Rakim coming from Long Island, right?
right,
Am I correct?
right. He
But
had
he's
Brooklyn
also,
essence.
but that's what I'm
He
saying.
had
So,
Brooklyn.
but he's running with four green dudes, right? Or something like this.
Yes, yes. His
So,
whole vibe is Brooklyn. And
okay.
crack took Brooklyn everywhere. Because I remember a lot of neighborhoods in New York pre-crack, post-crack. And I saw the Brooklyn vibe of how we get down in those areas post-crack significantly different. I saw, you know, people might get mad at me, but I saw neighborhoods that wasn't tough. They tough now. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Because they cousin from Brooklyn that came out there with the tough shit. They mans, they cousins, they family, they friends from Brooklyn, from high school or whatever, that brought this Brooklyn shit out to it, and Brooklyn rub off. You know what I mean? That's a
Right.
fact. Back in the days, they one thing I'm picking up Brooklyn, but
You are.
I'm a New Yorker
Yeah.
first and foremost. Let me say
Right,
that.
right.
You know, I'm Universal House of New York. You
But
know
you
what I mean?
claiming Rakim, like you taking Brooklyn and saying Rakim of Brooklyn right now. I'm fucking with you. I know what you. Yeah,
When he was on the back of that album, I forget which album it was with them. They were in Fort Greene Park, and I think the real 50 Cent was on the back of that cover. It was a bunch of guys on the back of that cover.
Was it the Follow Leader? Oh, anyways, go ahead, go ahead. It's something. Anyways, I know what you're
That
talking about in my mind.
I think it was
Maybe
in
Pay in
Fort
Full or
Greene
some shit.
Park that they did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shit, you know, even though that I ain't no joke, was done, I believe, out on Jamaica Avenue in Queens. To me, that shit felt like downtown Brooklyn.
Okay.
It felt like Albee Square Mall all day. You know what I mean? So I embrace Rakim like he's from Brooklyn. He had a heavy impact on Brooklyn. I don't know that he had at that time the impact on Long Island that he did on Brooklyn. I don't know. I'm not from Long Island, but I know in Brooklyn, and then a lot of 5%ers from Brooklyn. He's a 5%er. They're 5%ers, so that kind of linked up as well, kind of spread it out even more. But his vibe was Brooklyn all day. To me, his vibe was Brooklyn all day. You know, his vibe did not say 1980 what Long Island to me.
Right.
It said Brooklyn. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So, yeah, I love and he changed. He changed the game. You know, I love artists that come in and everything is different after them.
100%.
You know, a lot of people don't understand that's what's the greatness of Biggie. Everything was different after him. I don't care what rapper you liked more than him. He became the template. He was the turning curve. Everything changed after Biggie. You know, other rappers were, you know, before that, we was all riggedy bow, giggity gazooks, you know what I mean?
Right. That's effects and shit. Yeah.
We was on our motherfucking Tribe Called Quest. We was on our Redman was killing it. You know, when he was remember that first video he did with EPMD where he was in a chair, he had the wires on his mouth, on his neck and all that kind of shit. He was
what song was that?
Let's get ready to rumble.
Was it Time for Action though? Was that Time for
the head, what is
the Headbanger?
The Headbanger.
Yeah.
The Headbanger. We was on that shit. And then Biggie came and did what he did. You know, there was help from outside forces, if you will, to make hip hop make that turn. But Biggie was at the forefront of a pivotal change in the entire landscape of hip hop. So I would say Melle, Rakim, then Biggie.
Now it's interesting. You know, you from Gowanus, you haven't shouted out Whodini. You haven't talked about Whodini.
Well, I'm from East New York, Brooklyn, actually.
You're from East New York. Oh, but you lived in Gowanus.
I lived in Gowanus a long time too.
Got you.
That was the second phase of the hip
Ah.
hop.
Now,
when I got the deal, when I got my first deal, I was living in Gowanus at that time.
Got you.
I had went from East New York, always hung in Lafayette Gardens projects and lived there for a while too, and lived in Gowanus for a while. So all three are home. All three are home.
I got you.
In my Lafayette Gardens phase, I was with Easy Mo B and cats like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Kane, Big Daddy Kane used to come through and hang with my man AB. There was a group of rappers, Fundamental, that Easy Mo B is from. Those are my boys. They helped me get my first manager, all of that. We were all under the same management. Pure Blend that sings for Nice and Smooth was under the same management. Big up Sudan Lawrence. Rappers Fundamental, who were before their time. If anybody out there, go check them out. They did Miles Davis's last album, which was tremendous, and produced by Easy Mo B on his company.
Yeah, I try to find some, you know, Easy Mo, and there's so much, man. I love Easy Mo B. I think Easy Mo B is a genius. Like, there's shit
That's
like
one of my first producers.
Yeah, man.
I worked with icons. I worked with some icons, man. Minnesota, Easy Mo B, Buck Wild, Dangermouse. Like I've been privileged to have worked with some great producers, either very early in their professional career, and some of them before they even got on. You know what I mean? But Gowanus, Whodini. Now you're right. I didn't mention Whodini, but maybe I should have, because I fucking love Whodini. You know what I mean?
What's your favorite Whodini record? What's your favorite Whodini record?
The Freaks Come Out at Night.
My man, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
That shit
is nuts.
The beat and the song.
Yeah, man.
The beat in the song. You know what I mean? And my man Jalil, and I know Jalil from Gowanus, you know what I mean? I know him through other OGs and shit. I was a big Ecstasy's voice fan.
Yeah, his voice.
I'm very much into the sound of artists' voice. Like I love Eazy voice. I love Too Short's voice. I love Ecstasy's voice. Jalil, who used to rhyme off beat all the goddamn time. All the time. But and so did Chuck D. But that record right there, they both got it in. That's a perfect record. The Freaks Come Out at Night is what I call a perfect record.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And it, I think it transcends era sonically, and even the beat, just by I love that motherfucker right.
Bruh, like I said, I'm a younger cat. I'm hearing some of these things out of sequence. So there's an OG that actually really put me on the rap, I would say in a big way in the late 2000s. You know, because like my journey, I started to really listen to rap super heavy in 97. That's kind of like when I entered, when I was like, okay, all right, I'm a really like I heard almost everything. But I didn't really hear much prior. And I remember hanging out with an older cat, and he was like, and I hadn't really heard much from the 80s. I didn't know shit about the 80s, really. And I think that when you start to listen to records in the 80s is when you really start to understand rap. Like
I think so.
You know what I'm saying?
So.
And like that's when it was like, I was like, oh, I fucking understand what this shit is about. And this is what I'm saying.
Everybody sounded different.
Absolutely.
Without trying. It's just what you felt, that's what you did. And you weren't trying to sound like him. You were trying to either make your shit hold the same weight as that other artist that you like, but you were absolutely not trying to sound like anyone. That was actually shunned. So that's a loss.
Big time. And so my OG was like, he was saying, yo, back in the day, man, he was like, yo, 5 minutes of funk, that was the shit. And I was like, I didn't even know what 5 minutes of funk was.
Oh, that shit was fire.
He was like, man, that was the shit that had us like lit, all this stuff. So he was telling me about Whodini. I never even heard of Whodini. And so I'm listening to 5 minutes.
Those are unsung heroes in hip hop.
Yeah, man. It was a dope. I mean, I like 5 minutes of funk, but then I was like looking at some other stuff. So I was like, I listened to Freaks Come Out at Night. That was the one that really did it for me. Because
that's the intro to Ralph McDaniel's show, to Video Music Box.
Oh, for real? Okay, yeah.
All these years, that's the Freak Come Out at Night. That's Jermaine Dupri dancing. The little boy
I seen him.
Jermaine Dupri dancing, and that's much of the edits that were put into making the Video Music Box intro. That's from Whodini's tour. That was one of those tours. I think it was a Fresh Fest or something like that, which was the big shit back in the day. But yeah, I fucked with Whodini.
No, I that's my favorite Whodini record, period. That shit to me, like I'm saying, like as a guy who heard that in like 2010 or 2009 for the first time, and I was like, oh, this shit go. And how old is this record? So I can only imagine what people were thinking back then when that shit really came out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we was partying.
Yeah,
we was partying hard when you used to have to just fly and fresh. You know what I mean? Now I tell you, there's another one. Welcome to the Terror Dome by Public Enemy. Oh my God, that shit was a monster. That was that make motherfuckers fight right there. That Welcome to the Terror Dome shit. That's what Mike Tyson came out to for years. When he used to wear the towel with the hole in the top and just the black shorts and the boots with no socks, that was Welcome to the Terror Dome, always. And it matched the moment, it matched his aura, and and it was a movement at the time, set up by X-Clan and other artists.
Right. Now I was gonna say, this is kind of like a little random, but has anyone ever told you that you kind of look like Sonny Cheeba from Camp Low, and like he kind of looked like you?
Yes, I need to do some genealogy on that dude. That's a fact, bro. I got pictures of me when I was much younger, and him, and we look just the fucking like, bro. I met him several times, but I never thought of this then. But I'm like, yo, I look like this dude. This dude looked like me. For real. Especially when I was younger and I didn't have the hair on my face. I'm I'm looking at this dude like, yo, my dad did say back in the days he was fucking with a chick in Harlem. And she ran up on him talking about she was pregnant. He was like, I got no time for that. I'm like, is this Sonny? Because yo, for real. I got pictures, man, and I will say, I think the likeness is uncanny between me and like my younger self.
Right. It was just
primarily my younger self and him with the no hair on his face, especially since he lost weight.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man.
Another one of my favorite groups.
Oh, Camp, yeah.
I love Camp Low.
I
Yeah,
fucking love Camp Lo, man. Their whole
yeah,
style is just wild as fuck to me. You know, the
yeah.
ski, the beats, are nuts, the whole shit. Like,
The whole
uh,
shit, yeah.
yeah, the whole shit. So now I want to get into sort of your Scars and Pain EP.
Okay.
So how did that exactly? How did that come about?
Okay, I got signed to Polygram Mercury with that.
Yeah.
And I was walking through Guyana. I've told the story only once, before, actually in a documentary, but we never put the documentary out. But the footage is out there randomly. I was walking through the projects one rainy night, and I run into a young artist, my man Ra. We had only met maybe that same year. He was a new rapper, but he knew my name used to ring bells in the street with some hip hop before any records. That's another thing we used to do back. Your shit had to ring bells in the street. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Before any records back then. Like somebody in Brownsville would be like, yo, I heard of this kid right here. Somebody in Bed-Stuy would be like, I heard of that nigga from Queens. You know what I mean? And then you had the battle, but that's a whole nother thing.
right,
So
right.
I'm walking through the projects. I run into my man, Ra. He's about to have his first recording session. Um, I'm not knowing this at the time that this is his first. I'm not realizing how further ahead I am than the guys that I was around at certain periods. So he's walking through. He couldn't get nobody to go with him to the studio. So he run into me. He said, "Yo, you feel like going with me downtown to the recording studio? My mans and them are down there recording, and they want to put me on a joint." I said, "Fuck it, I ain't doing nothing." We walk from Gowanus to the studio downtown Brooklyn. I forget what studio it is. I walk in. DJ Goldfinger has a group. Now, Goldfinger lived in the next project, which is Wyckoff. And
Mm,
Goldfinger has his group, Full Metal Jacket, that had one of the illest MCs I've ever, all the MCs I really fuck with in my life, I call them God degree MCs, right? He's a God degree MC. He's still around right now, and they got some shit called Red Rum Republic out right now. His name was Lunatic. And so I go up in the studio, and they're in there doing their demo that they're about to shop to Polygram Mercury. They're about to shop their demo, so they're in there recording it. And long story short, one of the dudes in the group, Lunatic, come to find out, we went to high school. We looking at each other, looking at each other. He wondering, is it me? I'm wondering, is it him? I'm like, so once we get that out, we're like, oh shit, you Corey from Clinton. Oh yeah, you Gemini. Yeah, I remember you. This is funny right here. Check this out. I never told this before. So in high school, I'm that nigga. When it come to rapping, you had to see me. And I say that with all honesty, all humility. You wasn't coming to my school rhyming. You had to see me. And having said that, niggas used to bring niggas to come see me. I remember my man
sure.
Mercury, they brought him from Flatbush. I tore his ass up. You know, niggas would bring, it wasn't just me, it was me and my man J. Cool. We was in, but dudes would bring other rappers from other people, from other places, and we all would battle in the school, in the lunchroom and shit. So I'm sure Corey saw that because I was that nigga in school. It was graphic arts is where um not the low lives, the DSAPs. That was like for schools, that was like one of the homes of the DSAPs when they
Oh
first
shit.
started. My man Minnesota is one of the heads of that shit. Um, so Corey, who is Lunatic, knows me from that. We get to talking in the studio, and it's a very small room. The three of them, Goldfinger, Corey, and I forget the other brother's name, Cool Brother too, that's in their group. They're huddled up right across the room from me. I'm like, don't y'all know I can see y'all? They talking about me.
Okay.
They talking about Corey and his man getting at me on a joint. I'm listening to this shit. I'm like, they don't know I'm standing right here. Yo, I hear
Right.
this shit. So they break. They turn around. They say, yo, Jim, you want to jump on this joint with us? At that time, even now, really, but at that time, it was all guns and blades. You know what I mean? It was very competitive back then. I'm
100%.
not competitive like that anymore. I just want my shit to be fire on anything that I'm on. I don't care what anybody else does. I was kind of like that back then. So they asked me to get on the joint. Cool. I jump on a joint, and I think I went last, which is bad news. These are simple hip hop principles. You
Right.
go first or you
Realized.
go last.
Right.
If you want to murder some shit, you go first or you go last. I think they put me last. I was like, all right. So I jump on a joint with them. They take that joint back to Polygram Mercury, to the A&R, who was Kenyatta Bell. And he says, who's that last guy on that record? They like, that's Gemini. He like, Gemini. I had already shopped a deal there like a year and a half before. And I didn't get the deal because I was in a group and they didn't want the group. It was me and one other brother. And so he asked Goldfinger, can you bring him up here? Goldfinger is young in the business at the time. I'm sure he understood the implications. I don't know if he understood the degree of the implications because I already was there shopping the deal. So they knew what I was working with. Then they heard me getting it in with them on this song, which was a B-side to the single they was actually shopping. So now I start going up to the label. Once I meet the A&R, I start going up there to Polygram Mercury with them. Next thing I know, they offering me a deal. I'm like, I have been waiting for this. This is a deal. This was the first time I wasn't shopping a deal. And I actually got the deal. So, they offered me the deal. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm ready. I've been ready.
Wow. Okay.
And that's when the two voices came about. Because when I start rhyming, it sounds one way, but if I get excited, the pitch changes as I'm
Goes up.
getting excited.
And you know what?
Goes up.
And I was gonna ask you, actually, I wondered if that was, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me a little bit of Sadat X type of thing. I don't know if you like.
A lot of people said I sounded similar to Sadat X. A lot of people said that. I got that.
Oh, okay. So I wondered if that was like a style thing that you were like, you were kind of listening to Sadat and being like, oh, that's kind of
not
dope.
at
I
all.
could do that. And,
Not at all. Not at all. Big fan of Sadat. Love Sadat. To my ear, I never heard Sadat when I would go up to that hot pit. I never heard Sadat. I still don't really. And me and Sadat have a record together, but a lot of people don't know. On the album with Dangermouse, me and Sadat did a record. Me, CeeLo Green, me, Sadat, me and the Far Side. A lot of people here don't know about that album. But when my voice would go up, it changes pitch. That's when I'm excited, really going in. And my A&R said, he said to me, you should do a record like that. Because that wasn't my intent. That's just when we rhyming in the office. Organized Confusion would be there. That's Principal and Pharoah Monch and Lord Tariq would be up there because Minnesota was one of my producers. So Money Boss Players would be in the cypher. I'm in the cypher. Lunatic and Full Metal Jacket in the cypher. We used to have these ciphers in the office after hours. We go ham. So he asked me, he said, yo, I think you should do a record where you do those voices like that. And I was like, cool. And that became single The Funk Soul Sensation.
Right.
And Buckwild, one of my producers, Buckwild, actually went to high school with me too. So it was surprising to see him up at the office when they brought him in and said, yo, he wants to submit some beats.
Is Buckwild a Queens nigga or a Brooklyn nigga?
Bronx.
He's from the Bronx. Oh, that's right. He is from
Bucky,
the Bronx.
100% Bronx. 100%.
Right. Of course, the ITC.
Yeah.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was surprised to see him. So, so it's weird. Like seeing a dude that I used to go to high school with that was younger than me, it was a part of getting the deal because it was their deal. They were shopping when they took me there. When I get there and they start trying to find producers for the record, Buckwild is somebody I went to high school with, and he was there. But everybody knew my work already. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Go ahead.
So can I ask, was that common? Because what I mean by that is when in your day when you're going to high school, were you going to high school and meeting people from different boroughs in your same high school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, it was the first time in that particular high school called Graphics. It was the first time that kids from all other boroughs were going to that school. Prior to that, it was only kids from, I think, Manhattan and the Bronx. The year I came in there, they put Brooklyn in there, they put Queens in there, there was some chicks from Yonkers in there. Like, it was it was crazy. Zulu Nations, 5%ers, young niggas starting to sell crack. All together at one time in this motherfucking school.
That's
wild. It was and on some hip hop shit, it was like a battle for supremacy. It was like the old heads against the young heads. And I cleaned the slate out. Me and J. Cole, we cleaned the slate. All the
So
way to go.
so that and that brings me to the I would say iconic but the fantastic obviously Brooklyn Kids record. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, I want to kind of go step by step on this one because that beat is retarded. I mean so I don't know like when it how did it come to you? Was it made for you specifically? Like
No, no, it was in
okay.
a package of beats. And when I heard it, I said, I want that immediately. When Minnesota gave me that beat, I was like, I want that record right there. I want that beat right there. Minnesota always said back then and now, what I did to it was surprising to him. He said, I went somewhere else with the flow that I chose and what I did to the record than what he anticipated, which is something I love to do even now. I like to, when producers send you music, Dangermouse is one of the main ones. But when producers in general send you music, a lot of times they have a notion in their head of what you'll do to it because they're sending you something that they think you might like. Oh, I listened to his catalog, or I know his work. Oh, this would be dope for him. For me, I don't like you to do that. Just send me the hottest shit you got, and then I'm gonna see how it attaches to my spirit. That's
Okay.
going to dictate what I do. I use my voice, rhyming, and I always have. If you listen to my records over the years, I don't even sound like the same dude on a lot of records. You know what I
We gonna
mean?
talk about that.
You
I
know,
noticed that. We gonna talk about
flow
that.
wise,
Yeah.
pitch wise, style wise, because I'm allowing the music to dictate how I play the instrument. I'm a
Right.
Gemini. I'm an air sign, mutable. We like water. You know what I mean?
I'm
So
to airbender shit. Okay, I got you.
yeah, yeah. And it's not intentional.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
never been like I'm gonna try this new freaky. No.
yeah.
This beat says this to my spirit. And then my spirit will get involved with the
I
beat.
think, to be honest with you, brother, I think I would argue it's like that in a lot of ways, and I do think it tends to lead to the best records.
Right.
There's a rapper from Toronto called YOK from back in the day from the 90s, and he had this line on a song called Sunlight where he was like, beats give me vibes, vibes give me rhymes,
Right.
and
Right.
it's very much like that. I think that's why producers are so important because there's something that it gives to your spirit and then you take that and you basically intellectualize it. You know what I mean? You
Right.
give it a face, like because it's a spirit, right? And you give it
Well,
a mind. Yeah.
what the first thing that happens for me, first thing
Mm,
that happens is the music will speak to my spirit, and that will dictate how I'm gonna do whatever I do. It'll dictate the the flow, as it were. You know what I mean?
mm,
The style that I'm gonna use is gonna be dictated by this music. Now, then becomes the intellectual part of okay, now I know the style that I'm gonna use. What do I want to say? What do I want to address? Do I want to do fuckery on this record? Do I want to do oh yeah, I fucks with fuckery. Lately people, I'm somewhat of a conscious person, so I post a lot of things, and some people get it twisted. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm that, but I'm this too. You know what I
right.
mean? You
You're
need to
with the
know
shit.
that.
You're with the fuckery.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with the shit too. You know what I mean? I don't want to be,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm still in the street. You know what I mean? I'm still out here. You know what I mean? I ain't
Right.
rich. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm with the fuckery too. So the beat might tell me to do that, or it might tell me to do something intellectual. But see, now bust the nuance. You could say this beat is saying do something intellectual, but that don't necessarily dictate how you will present this intellectual idea that you have. You could be super articulate and like Faramonchi, if you will,
Right.
or you could be Macy, if you will. You can give us a Mace shit, because Mace to me was a supreme rapper.
I agree.
Pharoah Monch is a supreme MC, but the
What's the
key word
difference?
is supreme. MCs are concerned with the delivery of the song at its highest level,
Mm,
the technical aspects of delivery at the highest level. MCs are concerned with that. In truth, most MCs are rooted in that, and they come from that. That's why they MCs. That's why MCs don't exist no more. But they're the last of the Mohegans. Every now and then you'll get one on a record, but not really. The powers that
mm,
be stomped all of that out. So you got the vibe that the record is dictating. I'm gonna use this flow, or I'm gonna use this vibe. And then you have the technical aspect. How am I gonna deliver that? And then you have the content aspect. What is it I want to say? So all of that is always playing part. Whenever somebody give me a beat, that's always playing. Those
So
three aspects always
so
playing.
and again, I'm curious. So what was it about that beat that made you just go left like that? Because if
It
I
just
can,
took me. It took me right. I didn't think of anything else other than that story.
interesting.
It wasn't like I had this draft. Nah. How about this? Nah. That story would, and I'll tell you this. For me, I would say on some of the records that I feel are like my better records or my best work, it's always that way. There is no playing around and figuring it out. It said, do this. That's it. When I finish writing this page, that's it. That's the song.
That's
You dig what
interesting.
I'm saying? We ain't gonna go back and, only one time I had to do some shit like that. That whole first album, this is funny, nobody knows this. The whole first Scars and Pain EP with the Brooklyn Kids and the Funk Soul Sensation and all those other songs.
Right.
I lost it. I wrote it and had it all in a little manila briefcase, and that I would take to the studio with me with all the material in there. And I took my baby daughter, shopping, and we were on the train. And I got off the train at my stop at Broadway Junction in East New York. Stop before I lived at Liberty, which was the next stop. That's the beginning of East New York. And I got off the train without it and lost the entire album before
Yeah.
we started recording. Everything you hear on that album is shit I had to go back and create some. And I was on a time limit because I had already signed the deal. So I had to
Wow.
go back and like sit down and be like, make whole new shit. What I could remember, I could remember. What I couldn't, I had to make whole new shit. So that whole EP of Scars and Pain is not the original EP of Scars and Pain. I lost that shit on the train.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah.
That's some
But that's
shit.
how that was the beginning of me knowing it ain't me, knowing that the blessing is working through me.
Mm,
I'm the vessel. And that was the beginning of having that inclination that you are the vessel. This shit ain't you, so don't get all carried away with yourself. You know what I mean?
and so
Because
and go ahead. I was going to say that, and it's funny because, well, I was going to say nobody ever gave you that, right? Like found it and was like, oh, this shit belonged to Gemini. But now that I think about it, it's like
yo,
anything that gets
bro, I
left on
wanted
the
to
train.
cry.
Yo,
Real
I
talk.
I I could bet, man.
I got bags from shopping. I'm happy that day I had a little cash and shit. Crazy shopping for my daughter. I
That's
got her on my
wild.
hip. I got bags of clothes. I got the manila envelope. And I look down. Oh shit. I jump on the next train. I run to Euclid Avenue where the train stopped at, figuring out that shit was gone, bro. And I had to go inside and find new work that I thought was at the caliber of the other songs, but Blessing in Disguise. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the Brooklyn Kids that you hear now. Like I knew I was gonna do a song called Brooklyn Kids about that, but that what you're hearing is not the original song.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the subsequent song because I lost the original song. You know what I mean?
Damn.
So, but that taught me. You know what I mean? You a vessel. You know what I mean?
Right,
You
right,
you
right.
let it, and I'm that way with everything. I'm like, I'm still pretty proficient with my lyrical
With your pen.
skills. You
Okay.
know what I
Okay.
mean? But I'm not I don't sit around writing rhymes all day. You know what I mean? If there's work to be done, then I do it. If there's something for me to go put the pen to, and I feel like it's worth my while, then I sit down and do it. And I always try to do it at the highest level.
All
But
right.
other than
So
that, go ahead.
so one nitpick I got for that record, the Brooklyn Kids record, and
Okay.
a little personal to me, man, is you didn't shout out Prospect Heights. You know what I mean? Like you shout out
I did.
everybody, but there was
Yeah.
no Prospect Heights. I'm like, what the fuck?
Truthfully, I didn't think of Prospect Heights because I rarely hung in Prospect.
Right, right.
You
I
know what I'm
know.
saying?
Yeah,
I was all through Crown Heights. I was all through Brownsville.
you
I
were
was all through East
everywhere,
New
but
York.
you were
Yeah,
everywhere with
yeah, yeah.
Prospect Heights. I was like, God
But
damn.
Prospect Heights, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. And then you know what though? Also, and it could just be because I wasn't hanging out there. Prospect Heights didn't shout gangster, gangster to me.
No, not at all. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
all them other places that I'm talking about, it was so
It
gully.
was real. It
I
was
thought it
real. I
wasn't
know.
gonna sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
At that time, I don't
yeah.
recall it. It could have been, but I don't recall it being,
Yeah, no, I got you.
gully, gully.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. You know, like I said, I'm not from New York, but I've always had a lot of family in New York, and I've been to New York many times, and then lived in Prospect Heights for some time.
Right,
So, and it is quiet, you know, and
right.
you know, I mean, that's part of the beauty of it, anyways. You know, it's a smaller little neighborhood. So, but I did think that was funny because I was like, listen, I'm like, yo, you even shouted out Canarsie. I never, and like, what the fuck, man? Like,
Oh, they was getting popping in Canarsie. If there's a documentary called The 7-5. If you haven't
okay,
seen it, I suggest you go watch it.
75,
You will
okay.
see the East New York I grew up in. It's fucking
Yeah.
horrible.
Oh, I bet you, man. I
Yeah.
bet you. I've heard stories,
That
man.
aesthetic that you see in there, when
Yeah.
I was little, growing up, going to get penny candies and penny cookies and now laters and shit, that's what you see in the 7-5, in the 7-5 documentary. And I grew up, all of the places that you're seeing in there on both, because it's on both sides of East New York. But that's the East New York I grew up in. So anybody out there who wonder how Jim and I grew up, where he grew up, go watch the 7-5. You will understand.
Um, how come you guys didn't shoot a video for Brooklyn Kids?
They were stupid. Just like when I did the record with Dangermouse out there, they were stupid. Like they did one animated video for a song that me,
Was CeeLo on there?
CeeLo,
Yeah,
CeeLo,
I
yeah,
saw that. Yeah,
CeeLo, that
seen
was
that.
called What You Sitting On.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
did
yeah.
one animated video, and that won like a big award out there too. Best animated hip hop video, some shit like that, out there in London at the time. But they didn't, I've never been in a situation at a label or anything like that where they handle me or the project properly. And although to me it was elementary what they should do in certain aspects, I don't know if it was financial or they were just stupid. I found that when I first got in the game, because I got in the game writing first before I got in as an artist. But when I got in as an artist and I got to see the inside, the inner workings of the labels, I found that it was all nepotism. There wasn't a bunch of people up there who knew hip hop better than I knew it, musically or otherwise. There weren't a bunch of people who knew the business of hip hop better than this person or that person. It's just this dude went to school with that dude.
Wow.
These guys went to Howard, so when he got on and when he got out, he put him on at doing so and so at the label, and they both came. This young lady worked over there, and she got her girlfriend a job. They got college degrees, and then they wound up coming up big in the music industry. This guy, that's what I saw, and
Mm.
I didn't see people who had the sensibilities that I thought you should have dealing with this type of music, or definitely dealing with me. Like they didn't have sense to promote the fact that that was me singing on all those records. They didn't have the sense to do that. They didn't have the sense to do more than one video. Um, it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
And
and
I've
I
been in
always
situations like that a lot.
and yeah, and I always, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things I always wonder myself too is that, rap, obviously we're in 2023 now, and rap has become this like, global phenomenon. And again, you've got these like sort of some of these rappers who are just way larger than life. And the younger kids look at them as like, gods or whatever. But again, like for someone like myself who's of a certain age, to me, like they're great. But there was also guys like there's a lot of great rappers because I
Right,
remember watching them come up just like everyone
right,
else in a sense,
right,
right? So it's not like I just, like a lot of these like younger kids, they know about like Nas, that he's this incredible rapper. But it's like I remember
right,
when Nas was dropped Nas is like, or even if it was written, and he was a big rapper, but there were other
right,
big rappers too. And I guess
right.
what I'm trying to say is that like I always wonder how much of some of the success of some of those rappers is really based on just their label not dropping the ball. Like, because you hear the story all the time about how there's certain
Absolutely.
rappers, yeah, like who just talented, very talented,
Labels
but their
dropping the
label just
ball.
drop the ball and shit.
There are a multitude of artists, including myself, that people use the phrase one hit wonders. But the wonders part is the part I'm focusing on. If this person's music made you think of them as a wonder, like the Seven Wonders of the World and all that kind of shit, like a wonder, then why was it just one hit? Now, in some cases, there are artists who only had that one song that was of that quality, of that level, right? But there are others that the labels fucked up your career. You know, I was one of them. I'm one of them. You know what I mean? Where, you know, I remember before my album came out, they were so proud of the quality of the product, they were sending out faxes to other labels. This is our Biggie, you know, shit like that. You know, that's how. But when they dropped the ball, motherfuckers is high. Everybody, you know what I mean? And that's why I used to spaz at the label. I used to spaz a lot of times. I used to be like, y'all don't give a fuck about me. I said, well, right now, if I'm hungry at home and I ain't got no bread or nothing like that, y'all not calling me like, yo, Jim, you all right? You good? I said, y'all don't. I said, so, and they had never at Polygram Mercury had an artist who would confront them in that way. Like, stop acting like you my friend. Stop smiling in my face like you like me. If I'm starving and I'm fucked up, y'all not gonna call me and y'all don't give a fuck. I know because it has happened while I'm here at the slave. So, and they just be sitting there looking. Oh shit, I can't, like they can't believe I'm keeping it a buck at that time. They weren't accustomed to that at all. You know, I had a product manager. I'm not gonna say I should say a fucking name. Her name was Michelle Murray, right? She's probably big in the business right now. Michelle Murray, nice young lady, you know. But I remember the cover of the Scars and Pain EP. I told her specifically, do not use that picture. Of all of the images that you're showing me that we did at that photo session, I hate that one. Don't use that. So you know what the fuck she did? She went back and she decided to use the worst picture. This is what I mean in terms of sensibilities. Like it was clear to me there were other pictures better than that, but her brain told her this was the best picture. And that's what, and I was so heated when I found that out. But this is the part to the story. So I'm in her office when she shows it to me. I'm like, why the fuck would you use that? And I specifically told you not to. She gets on the phone, unbeknownst to me, and calls my A&R to come to the office because she's scared and think I'm going to do something to her. I'm like, I'm not going to do shit to you. I just don't like the fact that I told you what I didn't want and you did it anyway. And I told her that day, I said, I got to live with this throughout perpetuity. You don't have to live with this bad cover. I got to live with it. But the fact that she snuck and called my A&R, he came and got me, took me out the office, and they said, yo, she was scared. She said they thought that. I was like, these people are not like, they're not from where I'm from. Because I didn't do anything aggressive to her to make her feel that way. But it just speaks to that they didn't have, a lot of these people at these major labels at that time, maybe even now, didn't really have the sensibilities. They was just there because somebody, oh, you got a degree in such and such? Okay, you could get a job here. And then your girlfriend can be this over there, and your homeboy can be, you know.
That's interesting. You know, it's funny, man, and it's interesting you say that because I do think that fans, if you start to think like listeners like myself, we do pick up on little things because I got to be honest with you, I never really liked that cover from Scars and Pain. I was never
it.
so and the
did
thing.
You see the back?
No, I never seen the back. I've only seen.
I love the back. Not only did I pick the back, when we went out to the photo shoot, I styled that whole picture. I told them, bring me the old school mic that you hold in your hand. I already saw the picture because I do art, so I had the picture in my head. So when we went out somewhere in the Bronx, I believe, Harlem, the Bronx, somewhere, to this big park to do that picture, the sun was going down, and I made sure that they got that picture because that's the picture that I saw in my head. And they could have used that picture for the cover.
Yeah,
they could have used that picture for the cover. It's a far better picture in every aspect. But it just goes to show when you're not in control,
there's not much you can do.
Yeah,
because I remember because I mean again, like I saw I listened to your record on the internet, so like I only saw that picture. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, I was like, oh, okay, I mean, it's like it's blurry, like it's it's like it's
Yeah,
not
I
clear.
didn't like it at all.
Like you're like this. I was like, I'm not sure exactly because the pictures should communicate who you are, what you're bringing to
Right.
the table, and I wasn't sure exactly what you were bringing to the table with that picture. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And they asked me, I remember for the title of the album, Scars and Pain. Now the title comes from one of the songs that's on the album.
right,
Called the song is Scars and Pain. I
yeah,
love that
title,
song too.
yeah,
And they asked me at the label, they was like, so where'd you get that title from? Is that from like you giving MC scars and pain and da 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 da? Real fucking corny. I said, no, motherfucker, that's what I've been going through in
yeah,
my
it's real
life,
life shit.
trying to get to this deal. That's where that title come from. No giving no MC scars and pain. Y'all sound so fucking college corny to me.
Right, right.
I said, and they were surprised. I was like, no, that's my life. That's what I went through getting this deal. And it's like, like that never entered their minds, shit, you know. So,
Yo,
I was around a whole bunch of people that were not hip hop. They didn't have hip hop sensibilities and so on and so forth. And many of them were young in their careers as well. So, Marlo Thomas, who was my radio promotions person, she was excellent. Jana Fleischman, she was excellent. She was my publicist after Chris left. She was my publicist. She saved y'all know me today probably because Jana Fleischman. Her work as a publicist saved me a lot. You know what I mean? And so there was a couple of good people that was up there with me. But a lot of fucking assholes who did. I was wild back then too. I ain't gonna lie. I was on some wild shit. If you meet any of them, they're gonna tell you, yeah, he was on some wild shit.
you're a wild boy. Okay, all right, all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about when you watch your old videos, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
like Funk Soul Sensation, it seems
Right.
very communal and everybody's having fun. It's a good time. Was it really like that? Do you actually
Well,
reminisce
all
and
those
shit like that?
dudes in the video, we used to get drunk on Hoyt Street in Brooklyn together. A lot of them was a part of a crew called Hoyt Street Nasty Boys. We all used to get fucked up right on Hoyt Street. I lived right there in one of the buildings in Gowanus. So it's shot in Gowanus Project. I was living in Gowanus Project. So it's shot in front of my building primarily. And the other part is on Hoyt Street at my man, God bless the dead, Stan. He had a pool hall. He was like, yeah, you could come in here and shoot the video. And. So yeah, it was a lot of love, a lot of jealousy. When Biggie said more money, more problems, he wasn't lying because
Mm.
niggas hating me, and I don't even know why. I'm like, fuck you hating me for, nigga? We don't even speak.
Right.
I see you, you see me. I mean, you can
That's
see me
crazy.
for 2 years, but I was a fly ass nigga. I think that I was smashing. I was running through town,
You're running into some
and
things.
and,
Okay.
and I was fly as fuck. You know what I mean? And I think that rubs certain niggas. Because you know what? A lot of times dudes be wishing they you. They be wishing that they be like, my man should have had that opportunity. Or I should have that opportunity. I'm nicer than you. So-and-so's nicer than you. And they don't understand that's not what gets you a deal.
So
That's the
you're saying even back then, like, because I guess what I'm trying to say is that, so you were getting that hate back in 94, 95, and like
and
that's
now.
right, but that's right.
Oh,
But I'm
yeah, yeah.
saying like, yo, that because so what's wild to me about that shit is like
Mm-hmm.
again, I can only imagine for certain people who hate like that, where it's
Right.
like, you know, like certain people, it's like literally they've gone to a whole nother fucking level that
Right.
what I'm saying? Like I never even pictured, like, like obviously with all your big rappers or whatever, like I just to me they were just artists that I really liked. And now they're
Right.
like doing movies and all this shit. Like the hate must be crazy.
It's ridiculous. I tell young artists now, they don't listen, of course, but if I got somebody that seems like they got a little head on their shoulders, I try to put a little something in their ear. And I tell young artists, look around you, right? Your crew, your people. Some of them niggas hate your ass. They
Mm.
don't believe me, but it's a fact. I said, some of them wish they were you, not wish they was in your position or wish both of y'all got on. They wish they were you and believe that it should have been them. Some dudes that's with you right now, that you grew up with, that you think is your main man, and you don't even know it. But if you get successful, you're gonna learn. We all do. They're gonna show it after. The minute you don't do something that they want you to do, the minute they can't go somewhere where they feel they entitled, because with those relationships come a feeling of entitlement.
Right.
You know, they not gratitude that you're taking me places I never would have went. You're exposing me to things, putting me in situations around people where I should be making the most of it, but I would have never had these opportunities. They're like, you supposed to take me. And if you don't take me, I'm like, you changed. You know. And one thing about that you changed shit, this is on some metaphysics shit. One thing about that you changed shit is the minute a person looks at another person and says to them or wonders if that person has changed, they've already changed. Because prior to you having success, when they came to your crib and, yo, you coming out today? Yeah, I'm coming out. Y'all just went out. They wasn't looking at you no kind of way, analyzing you. It was just your man. The minute that person starts going, yo, that nigga kind of changed. I wonder, you think he acting like that because of this? The minute that hits their brain or their mind, they've already changed. You may not have changed at all. You know what I mean? That's where the shit show start.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
You know, do you find that like that in not just your videos? Let's look at like for example, the Big L video, Put It On, like all the other videos from the 90s where, you know, like, do you feel like those videos were real to a certain degree? Do you think it because they look kind of fun? Like, I mean, to people who are younger, they look and be like, yo, people were dancing, they were just chilling outside of
It was
the
fun.
bodega, whatever. Okay.
It was fun. The fun
Okay.
was authentic because, nigga, we making records. We getting a couple of dollars. We've been trying to make records for years. Now we on TV, this, that, and third. And those are all your homeboys, people from around the way. Y'all drinking, y'all got enough weed and whatever the fuck else y'all want. Everybody smashing. It was fun. It was fun. That don't mean gangster shit. You know, hood shit wasn't weaved all up in there. Because you could be having all that fun shooting videos, somebody come by and shoot that shit up. You know what I mean? That was a reality and has happened. I can name a few videos where that has taken place, but people who chronicle hip hop would already know that. But you know, in that fun, there's an element of danger that could take place at any minute. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we made the best of it and we had fun. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I wonder. Let's talk about your peers for a sec because, I mean, you know, you were up, you know, you were there, you were on Stretch and Bobbito you know, you're rhyming like with other cats, like who are really official with that pen, obviously.
Right.
And you're from East New York, so there's all these East New York rappers, like whether it be AZ, I think it's from East New York.
AZ,
Yeah, yeah, Jeru, who I love Jeru the Damaja. Like I feel like
my
most people
boy.
don't talk about. Oh, that's your boy?
That's my boy.
I fucking love Jeru the Damaja, my nigga.
Lil
Like
Dap from Group Home, Jeru, Amar, who did some. I don't know if he did writing or publishing for AZ, but his name is on that album. Amar. When I say we was putting in work, to my knowledge, there was two dudes putting in work on some rap shit in East New York. One was Amar, we called him Wiz, and myself. So Amar worked with AZ on his first album. So Jeru was my boy.
Amar, was he the dad that did the beat for I Feel For You? Amar? He
Huh?
did he was a producer. Your boy?
Yes.
Yo, I think I was literally just listening to his record like early this morning or some shit. Because I was listening to I feel like he did a record, I Feel For You or something like that. The AZ. I think he produced anyways, I literally saw the name in the production credit. It was
Yeah.
like this crazy beat. Anyway, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Blase.
Blase, yeah. I met Blase actually one time.
His name was Martel. Like the group Blase. We used to
Blase
rhyme.
was good dude.
We used to rhyme together at parties and shit like that. Blase is one of my mans. Lil Dap from Group Home, because this is all East New York.
Yeah.
Dap, Blase, Amar, me, Jeru, that's all East New York. You know what I mean? But
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love. I'm sorry. What was that, bro?
Monch is one of my peers too. Monch and Prince Paul, even though they're not from East New York, but those dudes are family as well.
That's cool. That's cool. And like, and y'all were, I'm assuming, what was the energy like? You know, just in terms of, I mean, you're listening to he's listening to your records, you're listening to their records, and you're just like, yo, like I gotta step my game. Was it like some real competitive shit like that?
It was competitive. It was nobody. Okay, from those guys' side, all the group home guys, the Jeru, the Little Daps, the Blase wasn't from group home, but he was from that side, Highland Park side of East New York, where all those guys hung out at. Everybody was trying to get on. Everybody was, so one dude, so first, Primo and Guru opened it up for them, right? And then people don't know, it was a long time. It was quite a while before they put any of the other guys on. I don't know if it's because they weren't able to. I don't know that story. But I remember dudes was waiting for the rest of the guys that you would see in those Gangstar videos to get on. So Jeru got on next, right? And then I think Little Dap and them, no, I think Blase got on and then Group Home or vice versa. But I was the last. I was the last to come up. And when I came up, I got a deal on a major. Some of them were on Payday, which was a subsidiary of Mercury. I was actually on Polygram Mercury. And it was very competitive. Nobody was coming to me of my peers at the time, not even my Brownsville peers, on the boot camp clique and all of that. Those guys over there, because Sean Price went to my school too.
Oh, for real? Wow.
He's another one that went to my school.
Gotcha.
I would see these guys at different functions and so on. So nobody was like, yo, I like your shit, this, that, and the third. It'd just be stoic, straight face shit. It wasn't until years later when we were grown men that I would be in spaces with them and they would tell me, yo, I loved your shit. I'd be like, word? We've been around each other for years.
Right.
I'm thinking you guys don't even like me.
Right.
It's just that's how it was at that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's how it was at the time. I used to be around a lot of guys who later on told me, yo, we love your shit. We always loved your shit. We thought this of you, we thought that of you. But at the time, shit, Smith wasn't telling me no shit. Jeru wasn't telling me no shit. Lil Dap, that was my nigga right there. Blase wasn't, like, we'll see each other. Nobody ain't say shit. It was just,
That's
so.
hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I remember, so I went to Brooklyn College, and I remember talking to he was like an administrator in the building, but he's from East New York, and I forget the brother's name, but obviously he was just saying that back in those days, I mean, like, yeah, like you were saying, like people hung out, like people knew who the rappers were, who
Right.
was really doing it, and it just seemed like everybody just kind of like hung out. So on that note, I always wondered, like, because you must have known Primo, like you must have at least seen him, or maybe I'm not sure if your
I
circles
saw him, but I
connected.
didn't know him.
Oh,
He
you
was
didn't
on
know him.
that.
Okay.
He was on that Highland Park because my man Black Vincent was kind of like the OG for a lot of those guys over there. So I didn't know Primo. I knew Guru.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
and my first industry event when my record was, we went on a promo run to California. We were in Hollywood, and they did a promo. They were breaking my record. I had to come out and perform and shit like that. And he was the only New York motherfucker I knew there. He came up there. I was like, come on, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, I knew Guru a little bit. I met Primo, but I didn't know Primo. But that I know. Jeru I know. Blase I know. Amar I
Interesting.
know.
Now, given your experience in the game, you've been a hip hop fan for a very long time. You know hip hop. Like, do you have like when you look at it all of the stuff you've heard, you have like a favorite, like like a top five or whatever that you're like, these are like my favorite producers. I absolutely love their sounds. I always check for them when they release new shit or whatever.
Producers?
Yeah,
Producers?
producers. Yeah.
Hmm. I don't think so. I don't think I have
Okay.
a top producers. Nah. I don't I never even thought of who would be my favorite hip hop producer. I would have to give that some thought. I never even thought of that.
Okay. Was there any because the sound of hip hop started to change to a certain degree. Obviously, like the shit that Minnesota and Easy B were doing, that sort of sampling and the boom bap, the raw shit, dope shit. And then it
Right?
starts to shift a little bit more towards like I guess you could call it the keyboard era if you want to call it that, with the Swizz
Mm-hmm.
beats and Timbaland and shit. Like were you into that? Like did you like that stuff or were you like, I don't know.
Yeah. I've always liked anything that sounded good to my ear. I was never
Got you.
um uh like I said, a hip hop head, which kind of equates to almost a boom bap head. I was
Got you.
never a boom bap head. If the shit was hot, it was hot to me. I
I
didn't care if
agree,
it was,
man. I agree.
I don't care if it was trap. I just did a song not too long ago on a drill beat. I didn't rhyme the way that they would rhyme, but it's a drill. The beat is a drill beat. Shit inspired to me. If it moved me, it moved me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That I've never been caught up in these, hip hop purists, elitists. I call them hip hop elitists. I've never been on that shit right there
that's cool. That's
because
cool.
I know, truthfully, if I'm up in a party, I ain't trying to be deep.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
ain't
yeah.
trying to be into no deep shit. I'm trying to
Right, right,
party. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Especially when
right,
I was younger coming up. But even now, if I'm in a party, I'm in there just having a good time. I ain't trying to really break down the science of your lyrics, what he meant, your metaphors. I
right,
ain't
right,
giving a fuck about that when I'm in
right,
a party. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
In a
right,
different
right.
space, yes. But
Yes.
there are dudes who are stuck in those spaces. Like if it ain't boom bap, it ain't real hip hop. If you ain't the illest lyricist, and I thought I liked Easy E when New Yorkers thought Easy E was trash. I love fucking I mean E to the
Yeah.
motherfucking E. I used to love that shit. You know what I mean? Because it entertained me. It
Yeah,
entertained me. And
yeah,
even when New Yorkers now, because we the quintessential foundation of the hip hop thing, we give love to a lot of legendary hip hop artists that we didn't fuck with their shit. We didn't fuck with Ice-T shit back when it was coming out.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
fact. We
That's a
didn't fuck
fact.
with Too Short shit when it came out. We know they're icons now, and they have since made records, especially Too Short, that we love. But at that time, we didn't really fuck with it. But I was always on the opposite side. I was like, if I like it, if it entertains me, I like it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? My
yeah.
thing is some records are to educate and inform, and other records are to entertain. And I think, to be honest, I think a lot of our legendary hip hop icons kind of got lost along the way with this keeping it real shit and forgot. First and foremost, you must entertain the listener.
I
They ain't
agree.
making records for you. I mean, maybe some artists do. They on that, you know, I make records that I like. And da, da, da. I understand that, but you ain't buying the record. So
Right,
I don't know what's the demarcation line, what's the fine line between how you're gonna move. Yeah,
right.
you should make records you like, but you're not making the records for yourself. So that needs to be taken into consideration. And if you're taking that into consideration, you gotta always keep at the foundation, whatever demographic you're trying to hit, you gotta entertain them.
I agree.
Yeah, this is the entertainment business. You
I
know what I mean?
mean,
They
I
call it
agree.
edutainment too, edutainment as well.
Yeah.
But there's some tainment in that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
No, I hear
And
you, brother. I never was when I really started to get into rap heavy, I was a huge Timberland fan. At the same time, I was a huge Primo fan. I just
right.
and I love Swizz. I still love Swizz, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, I love
you know,
Swiss. I love Timberland. I love
yeah.
Primo.
So
Yeah.
I never was, and it's interesting because um I also remember in that late '90s period in particular, where you started to see this demarcation where it was like, nah, we here, we underground, we don't do that mainstream shit, we don't fuck with
Right,
this
right,
shit,
right, right,
blah blah. And it was like mainstream was like, I'm not listening to that like dusty like shit, and it was weird to me because to me, dope is dope. Like
right,
there's stuff in the mainstream that's fire, there's stuff in the mainstream that's trash, there's stuff in the underground that's trash, and there's
right.
stuff in the underground that's dope. Like, and I didn't even look at it as like mainstream underground. I was just like, dope is dope. They
What's
might have
dope is
slightly
dope.
different, yeah, they might have slightly different audiences, and like you said, for different moments. But
Right,
dope is dope,
right.
right?
I
Yeah,
remember back when the keep the crossover EPMD did keep the crossover.
yeah,
And then they used an R&B hook to a computerized Roger Troutman type voice on the whatever you want,
yeah. Right, 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 right.
hey, whatever you need, right? I was never on that keep the crossover shit. I was never on that. I was like, this is an inevitable thing. Like
Mm,
dude's been singing with rap since the beginning.
right.
And now you're calling it the crossover if somebody's singing it. I remember the Fearless Four doing their thing. I remember walking down the street with your box in your hand. I remember that shit. Like
Yeah,
niggas
yeah,
was doing that. Kid Curtis Blow was singing.
Right.
Fat Boys had "Can You Feel It." Nobody called that crossover. That shit was
So
hard.
how do you feel? Now you're talking to a Toronto nigga, right? Because
Okay.
now we've essentially taken the credit for that shit. That's
For what?
With Drake, right?
Oh, with Drake. Okay.
Yeah, because you hear a lot of times like when Drake came out, it was like, oh, Drake's this innovative thing because he's singing and rapping and nobody's really done that,
Yeah,
right?
I was doing
Right, but that's what I'm
it.
saying. How do you feel? Like, how did you feel hearing that shit? Were you just like, this? Nah, that's some bullshit. Like that's made up. Like that's
I
just a
knew that
narrative.
I knew that the people saying it and the people who were promoting that mindset were ignorant.
Mm,
Simple as that. It's just stupid. This shit Drake was doing was fire, and niggas was doing it before him, and they were doing it way before that as well. Lauryn Hill, wasn't she singing?
she was singing
Am
and
I
rapping.
wrong?
Yeah,
Latifah, wasn't she singing?
singing and rapping.
I mean, these are hit records. What the fuck? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
here's the truth: Drake wasn't singing. He
yeah.
was melodizer. He was talking, and they
I
put
agree.
shit on it, and they use the auto tune or
I
whatever,
agree.
and make
I
it
agree.
a new form. I call it melodizer.
Mm,
Why I call it melodizer? Because it's not really singing. It's not
it's not really singing.
vocalizing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's it's the equivalent of you take the auto tune and put it on somebody who's really talking in a melody.
Right, right.
And dudes used to do it back in the days. Back in the Grandmaster Flash and Fury 5 days, they would do these little melodies and they thing, but they weren't really singing. They were like da 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 da. They were, they weren't singing, but you could call it singing.
Right.
MC Shan was singing horribly, and we loved it. I thought, yo, big up to NC Shan, but
Big
I
up to
thought,
Shan. No, but Shannon said that himself. Like he was singing back in the day for sure. I seen it in the
yeah,
video interview where he
yeah,
mentioned that for sure.
I was like, this is not good. And I ain't gonna lie, the record was dope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Him singing that part was a dope idea.
Right.
His vocals was not good.
It was not it.
And I'm as a singer,
Yeah.
I was thinking that back then, but it made me say, God damn, they will take anything if it's catchy. They gonna fuck with Milled it with the mouthpiece. I said, they fucking with this shit. It was catchy. Don't get me wrong. I was in the party dancing too. I was in the party. Yo, Shan, not Shan, Swan.
Oh,
I was in the
Swan.
party
Wasn't TJ
dancing.
Swan that was singing that, right? Yeah, yeah,
TJ Swan. I think I said
yeah.
MC Shan. I made a
Yeah.
mistake.
But
TJ
Didn't
Swan.
Shan sing too as well? Okay, I might be
Nah,
fucking up.
I don't
But
know
okay.
that.
I don't know. Maybe it was
But
Shan,
there
but
was a
TJ
lot of
Swan.
singing going on, even
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
Drake's new version of singing. And we'll
In
give
fact,
you,
Nas had that line. It's like I think he said something. I'm the first MC on some TJ Swan shit or something like that. I think he said something like that.
that's what he said?
Yeah, I think he said something like that. Like, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, man. So, I loved what Drake was doing. I thought that everybody that was talking anything negative about it, even the he ain't writing his shit. I've always thought that was just stupid. I was
Mm,
like, Michael Jackson ain't write all his shit.
sure, but it's rap
He's
though.
bigger than all of us. But see, I don't go with that. It's just rap shit. You know why? Because
Right.
it's music. It's music first. Hip hop is just a genre of music. It
I
is
hear
not an
you.
exclusive entity outside of the parameters of music. It's
Yes,
music.
it is
And I
music.
try to tell niggas this is
Yeah,
music first.
it's music
And
first. I agree.
you are a songwriter. I had to teach niggas this. You're a songwriter first. You keep calling yourself a rapper. You keep
Mm,
calling yourself an MC. You
yeah,
are those things, but for you to be commercially viable, you had to make some records, right? You had to get
yeah.
some publishing, right? So you're a songwriter. Refer to yourself as such. They still learning that these small principles that I live by, I try to pass on so somebody else could take the baton. And not that I'm stopping, but I'm just saying, like, I really have to impress upon dudes like, you are a songwriter. Say it with me. I know
Yeah,
you're proud that you're a rapper. I
I
know you're
agree.
proud that you're an MC. You want to get some money? I'm a songwriter. Okay. When these country singers come out and they blow, what do you see at the American Music Awards? Singer, songwriter, so and so.
No, I hear you. I halfway disagree. The only and I agree on the fact that rap is music at the end of the day. So if it's got to work musically, or else
Right.
it's
You don't
right? Like
have to
serious.
write it. You don't
Right.
have to write
I
everything.
know, and I
That's
agree that you don't have to write a song. I
because the
totally agree.
first
I
hit
like Drake.
record wasn't written by the dude saying it. Big Bang Hank didn't write the shit he wrote. Grandmaster Cash wrote it. So what the fuck? If that's the template, what are you talking about? You gotta
Right.
write.
But at the same time, I do think that hip hop and what I really love about hip hop, and I think that where hip hop is different from the other genres of music for the most part, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
is that hip hop is very personal. Like the great like
It
so
can be.
it can be. It doesn't. Right. You're right. It's not like by default. Right.
Because niggas writing shit that, you know, like what Big Back Hank was saying that wasn't his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got
Right.
a Lincoln Continental and a brand new cat. That wasn't his life.
That was. Yeah. Yeah.
Hit record, right?
Yeah.
One
Hit
of the
record. No
iconic
doubt.
records of all time. Put hip hop on the map.
Yeah.
Not true. You
No,
dig what I'm
I
saying?
agree. I agree. And I
So
think that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
it's
Go
all
ahead.
right. I think that some of these tenets have been attached to hip hop, but they're
Mm,
not accurate. That's what
mm,
I believe. It's
got you.
actually what I know, but out of humility, I'll say what I believe. And I'm saying I know because I'm speaking to the facts. Singing was always around, so how could that be the crossover? Rappers were always, from the beginning, some rappers were rapping shit on record that wasn't theirs. So we can't say that that's, a basis of hip hop and so because it wasn't from the beginning. I remember there was this debate about a real MC, a real rapper knows how to freestyle. Not fucking true.
Hmm.
It's never been true. It's never been true. There are things that you heard that you thought somebody was freestyling, but that nigga wrote that shit. I can hear who wrote it and who's freestyling. This is before the new battle rap era where dudes are doing all that stuff and
Yeah.
and and,
Yeah.
and, and a lot of that stuff is written too. A lot of that stuff is written too.
That's
Pieces and
100% right.
segments, right?
Yeah.
But there was a time when I remember this notion or debate going on in hip hop about real rappers know how to freestyle. And I'm like, only people who are saying that are people who weren't there. Because that's not
Mm,
true. You dig
mm.
what I'm saying? Like, dudes,
Yeah.
I was in ciphers at the beginning. And niggas was spitting bars that they wrote to bring to the cipher and destroy your ass.
Right.
Everybody wasn't freestyling. Now, yes, that was a tenet of being an MC. That's one of the tenets of being an MC. But it is not the foundational, it is not an exclusive foundational tenet of this is what makes you an MC. That's not true and it's never been true. And so, I just want to take this opportunity to dispel that myth.
No, thanks for educating though, because you're right. And no, it's true because there's a lot of and I think that's one of the things I really like about my channel because I and why I set it up is because I'm out here, I'm really trying to dispel some hip hop myths. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a lot of it is just maybe my personal opinion, but like you said, there are things that are they've just become these myths that are just and you're
yeah.
like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was
I
and
got
again,
one for you. I
go
got one
ahead.
for you. And
Okay.
this is taboo right here, and I ain't saying no name. This is taboo. People saying, well, this artist never wrote a rhyme, right? He just went in the studio and he just everything was just off the top of the head that you ever heard recording from these artists, right? I've heard that about certain artists. But I, who have intimately been in the recording process, there's a thing called punching if you run out of breath. You can spit that whole shit fire, and the producer go, I think you can do that line better. So
Mm,
you may have officially spit that whole song from top to bottom, all three bars, just off the top of your head, boom, boom, boom. Ain't nobody gonna tell me that there's never been a time when that has happened and a producer didn't say, "Yeah, you ran out of breath a little bit on that part. Can you do that over?" That's just the recording process. The record company is trying to make the best record they possibly can.
right.
The producer's name is attached to it. He's trying to make the best record he possibly can.
Right.
So to think that there's somebody who every time they went in the studio
They just
came off the top of their head for however many bars they had, or maybe a verse, maybe somebody did that for a verse, but for an album's worth of material, never once did a producer say, you ran out of breath a little bit on that part right there. Your breath got a little, your voice got a little shaky on that part. I think you can come in better on that part. You think that's never happened? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it happened. This is the
Yeah,
recording process.
right.
This legendary shit builds, it builds myths and builds, so on and so forth. It sound good. And it may have happened on certain records, but all the time, every song, call me crazy.
So this
And in
brings
terms of the recording process, making a great record, not possible.
so this brings me to your point because you're a huge Biggie fan, right? Biggie
Yeah.
was supposedly, he didn't write or whatever.
Right.
And there's this, some people say he did write, that's bullshit. And some people say he never wrote. He just kind of went to the studio and just spit godlike.
Right.
So how do you feel about that?
I believe even if he did just spit, sit there, think of it, and spit out what he thought, right? Even if he got the whole verse out, and then the next verse, and then the next verse, I'm certain somewhere in this is the recording process.
Right.
This is the record business. At some point, somebody said, "Can you do that line again?" It's just that's not dissing Biggie at all. Somebody that might see this and be like, "No, I was there. This and the third." I'm saying,
Yeah, yeah.
in my lifetime, I've never seen a series of recording sessions. I'm talking about albums of
Yeah.
material
Yeah, yeah.
where the producer, the engineer, never stopped or after it was over said, that was fire. That verse you did was fire. Or could you do it again because you ran out of breath at this part? Or you stumbled on this word? I never not seen that happen. We talking about volumes of work. And
Yeah.
somebody gonna tell me that for volumes of work, that's never happened. To me, that defies logic in the recording process.
I
If it
agree.
happened, so be it. But it's just not natural to the recording process when you're trying to make the best record you could make. Because when you're in that studio, you're not in there, trying to uh, enhance somebody's legend or anything like that. You're trying to make the best record that you can make that day. So we run out of breath sometimes. We skip on or stutter or on words at time. Like that this is human.
Yeah.
And an engineer is not going to let that ride. A good engineer is not going to say, well, that's so and so. So fuck it. I couldn't understand that one word he said right there. I heard the in between that piece right there, but I'm just going to let that ride because that's so and so. No, a good engineer is not going to do that. So, don't be mad at me, y'all.
No, I mean, and it's interesting as someone like yourself who's practiced hip hop at a high level, I always
Right.
wonder when there are things that I hear on the internet and I see it and it irritates me as a listener. I'm just like, that's not fucking true. So I always
Right.
wonder for someone like yourself who's like, you've done this shit. And then
Yeah.
you're just do you feel like speaking out or you're just kind of like, man, it is what it is. It's the game.
Nah,
Niggas
some
be
shit is
whack,
not true.
whatever, right?
Like that freestyle shit that a
Yeah,
real MC know how to freestyle. That's not true. It's never been true. You
yeah,
know, uh, even at the time, as I said before, even at the time when it was happening, and into Drake's era, singing crossover or having a problem with it. I always thought that was ridiculous because it's been around since the advent of hip hop. It's just a lot of little things in there that people have come to embrace as it's lore. You know what I mean? People have come to embrace it as the truth, but it's not necessarily accurate. Yeah, it sounds good, feels good, not
yeah.
necessarily. And
That's
and
not real.
also an MC, or I won't say an MC, I'll just say a rapper. A real quote unquote rapper writes all his material. Not true. Doesn't have to be true. You know what I mean? He might write some of it. And you may love those records. And then you may have heard the same rapper on some shit where his man gave him a line.
So
Niggas do shit like that.
this is
Just
true. Okay, so on that note, so to me, I'm okay with that, honestly. See,
yeah,
so for example, I'm just gonna throw Nas as an example because I love Nas. Nas is like my favorite rapper, honestly.
right.
I'm a huge Illmatic fan. But the thing for me is, do I think that Nas wrote every single line on Illmatic? I'm not sure. I don't know. Do I
He
think it's
may have, but
possible? He may
he
have.
may
He
have.
may have.
He probably look. I'm a big Nas fan. He probably did, just like a lot of the major icons. But that doesn't mean that in your circle you've
That
never
a
been in the
man can, yeah, yeah,
studio and your man said, "Yo, how about you say, or how
100%.
about you do that line like
I
this?" I
agree.
think that's just natural part
I
of
think
the
that's totally
process.
natural.
They rappers
100%.
and you rappers.
I
Only
agree
difference is
100%.
you got on and they didn't. In
Yeah.
fact, in your circle may be rappers that you feel are better than you.
Mm,
Right? Jizza wasn't the one who blew up first from Wu-Tang. Wasn't it ODB and Meth as
right.
individuals?
Right.
Right? But Jizza's held in the highest regard as the big homie of MCs of my era and in that group, as I'm told.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if Jizza was in the studio or Meth said, "Yo, I'm about to record this song, what you think about this?" You think there was never a time when Jizza said to anybody in the group, "Hey, why don't you try that line like this?" Or why don't you, here's a line right here. I mean, I think it would be a natural part of the process when you're in the presence of somebody who's lyrically that great. And you don't think you're as good at them at the time. And maybe nobody else in the group thinks you're as good at them at the time. And that person who's the head is not ever going to suggest a line or the recrafting of some words. It just don't stand up to
So
logic to
I
me. For me.
agree. But I think to me that's more of an editing thing. I think that's like you and your crew are kind of writing together, maybe slash editing. And that's
Yeah,
totally fine with me. I think where people are talking about, they're saying more like, you're in Brooklyn, I'm in Toronto, and I literally write the record for you. You don't know me. I'm like, here's a
right,
record, bars,
right,
and I'm giving you the flow.
right.
This is how you're gonna flow on it. And then I just pass that shit over to you
I
and then you
agree with
spit
you.
that shit of some like, yo, I'm that nigga, right? People go, what
Well,
the
watch
fuck?
this.
Yeah.
I agree with you that that's not some MC shit, right? With that scenario you just gave, that's not some MC shit. At the same time, I'm agreeing with you. Some of the dudes ain't claiming to be MCs. They can't be held to that standard. They never
Mm,
claimed to be an MC
right, right,
who is authentically what you're saying.
right.
They never claimed to that. They're dope artists. They're rappers and dope artists, and that's all they ever tried to be. So, I agree with you, what you're saying, but at the same time, having said what I just said, if the person gives you a song and you go do it word for word, however they taught you to do it, whatever the case may be, does that mean you're no longer an MC? Does that mean your credentials have been taken? I might
I
have did
mean,
16 songs that you love, you personally love, that I wrote. And then there's one song my brother wrote, and I never told nobody he wrote it. He gave it to me, and I did it, right? You don't know.
mm,
You
I
listening to
don't
the
know.
album, you like, that's one of my favorite albums of all time. Like 8 songs on that fucking album. And them 8 songs are the ones I wrote, and this one song is one my brother wrote that you don't know. Does that take my MC credentials away from me? Because I did
No,
his
but
song too?
no, it doesn't. I mean, but that's your brother though. Like if it was like, I don't know if it
Does it
was
take
like
my
two,
credentials if somebody else wrote this one song and I've
yeah,
I've written mad hip hop songs that you love?
yeah,
I
yeah,
wrote. So
yeah, yeah.
does
No,
that
you still an
discredit
MC.
me?
No, it doesn't.
I
No,
don't think it does.
no,
I
I
just
don't
don't
think it
think
does
it
at
does.
all. Yeah, yeah.
Is that some MC shit? No. But I don't think it takes my MC credentials if I spit at the highest level as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a cheat sheet. You know what I mean? Might be a cheat sheet, but I don't think that takes, you can't say that motherfucker ain't no real MC. He didn't write this song and this song. Well, did he write all that other shit? Yeah, he wrote all of that. Do you love it? Yeah, I love it. Is it lyrically proficient? Yes, it is. Well, how the fuck he not an MC? How is
Yeah.
he not an MC? Because he did this shit over here too. We gotta remember, we gotta remember. It's a different thing if you're not writing none of the shit. That's different.
Yeah, yeah.
And there has been that as well. There have been artists out here with a lot of hit records that they didn't write none of that shit that nobody don't know they ain't write none of that shit. That has happened too. That's a whole different thing.
And then do you
Mhm.
think and as for someone like yourself who's an artist and
Mhm.
you may know that artist who hasn't written shit, right? Ever. I
Right.
mean, and then you hear about them getting the accolades and all that. I mean, do you just go, "That's just the game," like, or do you feel
Yep.
like, "Okay,
That's
okay,
the game.
that's just the game," right? Okay,
That's the game.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like there's other shit where you gotta go, that's the game.
Mm,
The record label picked this nigga to blow and not that one. That's the game. You dig what I'm saying? We all think this dude is better than that dude. But this nigga is making millions and this nigga is making nothing. That's the game. You know, I could think, I'm not gonna say their name, but I could think of a crew in recent time that had one of their artists who blew, and everybody in the street was saying the main nigga is a different dude in the group. They were saying the illest MC was a
mm.
different, and the illest rapper in the group was a different guy who never blew up. In fact, one, two, three. I can name three groups. One is an iconic group, and the other two are more recent groups who, on the streets, people were like, "No, wait till you hear so and so,"
Right, right,
and
right.
so and so never got his chance, or he never got the push that the main nigga who blew up with that single got. But he ain't the best dude in the group. I chalk that shit up to that's the game. That's how I go. You know, another thing I have to pass on, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. I'll be like, the game don't owe you nothing, bro. The hood don't owe you nothing, and the game don't owe you nothing. You could be the greatest nigga who never was. I know a bunch of
Mm.
them. It doesn't owe you anything. Niggas be thinking they owed when you're young and everybody's telling you you're great. People tend to think, well, it's gotta happen to me. And if it doesn't happen for me, then shit just ain't right. No, nigga, this is how it goes. Some niggas gonna make it onto the ark and some ain't. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Game don't owe you nothing. You could be the dopest nigga in the group. Like, wait till my shit. Matter of fact, a fourth group just popped in my head. If we ever have a phone conversation, I'll tell you this.
What? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you will have to agree that all four of these groups that are in my head, the streets was like, wait till this nigga in the group drop. Even people in the group was like, you think my shit is hot, wait till this nigga shit drop. And when this nigga shit turn come, it either never gets to where it's supposed to be, or it don't blow the way the one first got. You can't call it. That's just the game. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. You know?
Damn, man. I was gonna say, you've been steadily working, man. You got that new single, Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know, man. Let my peoples know what you're up to. You got coming in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start with my single Sunshine. I currently have a single Sunshine on all streaming platforms right now. It's a hip hop soul joint. It's me singing on it, just so everybody knows that's me singing on it. And I think it's a pretty dope song. I'm spitting on it too, but I'm singing on it as well.
Yeah.
Hip hop soul single. So check that out. That's Sunshine. That's on all streaming platforms. Um, I have a new album. Well, it's not a new album. It's an previous unreleased album that Dangermouse and I did when we did the first album. We did this one right behind it, and me and that label have been fighting over the release of it forever because they just didn't want to treat me right. They didn't want to pay me right. They didn't want to do me right. And I was like, yo, I've been broke before. So what y'all gonna do? Make me broke? You know what I mean? Fuck it. Leave it on the shelf. And we've been going back and forth every year or two over this. So now we're at a point where we're finishing up the negotiations for a newly released, previously unreleased Dangermouse and Gemini record. I don't know what the title's gonna be as of yet. So that's coming this summer. Um, I have a clothing line called New Yorker Brand Clothing, and a shoe line also under the New Yorker Brand banner. And you can find them at SCD Meta Media. That's SCDMETAMEDIA.com. And you can find my clothing there. You can find my shoes there. You can find a lot of old videos of songs that I did in the not too distant past that people just have never seen. Um, what else we got coming? I got a new single coming out at some point with a producer named Dub L. It's called Unfuckwithable. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and I have another one coming out with my boy, what's the title of that record? Damn, I can't remember the title. He gonna be mad at me, but I can't remember the title of the record right now. But this shit is fire. We went out to Baltimore to record it. Yeah, so that's coming out. And I'm just trying to get in where I can fit in. You know what I mean? Oh, and also people need to know this. I've been spending the last bunch of years writing television and film content. And man, the chasm of trying to get that shit from what you wrote to an actual pitch meeting is incredibly hard.
Tell
So
me
if
about it.
anybody is out there looking for film and television content, I have a slew of great film and television content of all different types. Don't think just because it's me, it's all urban story, because it's not. And that's really what I'm trying to do. A lot of what I'm trying to do is to be able to get my profile up, as they say, so that I can get into these offices and have real serious, meaningful pitch meetings for my television content and film content.
It's interesting. So let's dive into that for just a brief second.
Okay.
Because first of all, I think it's really interesting that you are going into sort of television and film content
Okay.
in the way I mean there's some similarity. Like I went to school for film and TV.
Okay.
So I'm a screenwriter actually. That's like my thing. But I love like martial arts films and shit. That's like my thing. And I've done some shorts like all sort of martial arts, fantasy oriented and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I do think it's interesting that you're going into that. And what's like, I guess, what's your favorite like all-time film or TV, or what's that show that you're like, man, I wish I could have made that shit, if it was me or whatever,
Mm. The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that shit's hard. Twilight
The
Zone's hard.
Twilight Zone. The Twilight
Yeah.
Zone. And I don't know a favorite film, but as a director, the type of shit that he was doing, that not the dude from Key and Peele,
Oh yeah, Jordan
Get
Peele.
Out.
Yeah, Get
I
Out. Yeah,
like that. I loved it. Get Out was amazing to
Get
me.
Out's wild. Yeah.
And Get Out was amazing to me. Um, I'm weird with the films and shit. Like I like a lot of old films and shit, like Inherit the Wind and with Spencer Tracy, and I'm kind of all over the place with it. You know what I mean? I'm kind of
No,
all
that's
over the
cool.
place.
That's cool. I think that's really good of you, man. And especially if you know some older stuff and things like that. Because I really do think that like screenwriting is like anything. It's a craft. You got to study it. You got to
Yeah,
know the older stuff. You got to know your vibe. And I could actually, it's interesting you say this because you mentioned the Twilight Zone and Get Out and being from East New York. I think you could come with some hot shit, man. Because East New York is the Twilight Zone, like back then. You know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's
So you probably have
it's
a
a fact.
perspective that a lot of people would actually be interested to see.
That's what I think. Hey, anybody out there listening? That's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man. I can honestly say, and I'm not just speaking on some ego shit. I got some really good content, film wise and television wise. But if I could just get an opportunity to get in front of some people who have some green light power, because all these streaming networks, I see so many shows. I see some trash, bro. I see TV shows that I'm like, how did somebody get in a room and get somebody to fund this shit?
Yeah.
I literally see content like that. I'm not knocking them, God bless them, but I'm like, get me in one of them fucking rooms.
Right, right.
Get me in one of
Yeah,
them rooms.
I think the problem with the trick with that stuff, and I remember having a conversation with somebody I know who does work in the business, and they were saying that on the outside, there's all these streaming platforms, and it looks like there's all these writing jobs, but the reality in matter is that it's actually it's still a very select few, and it's a lot of
Right.
them. It's the same writer, so it's like, for example, and I'm just going to throw his name out there, no disrespect to the brother, but like David Goyer, who wrote Blade and found is writing on Foundation and wrote a bunch of stuff. So David
Right.
Goyer might have a script in a drawer that he has never sold. And to be honest with you, that script might not be very good. It just, it might just be one of them scripts, right? And so these streaming platforms, they're looking for content. They're not going to you. They're not going to me because they don't know who the fuck we are. They're going to
Right.
go to some guy who's already established to be like, yo, what do you got? And he just hands off
Exactly.
some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it is.
And you know what I do want to say? One of my favorite TV shows of all time of modern, in terms of the writing, is Blackish. I think Blackish was genius.
I never seen Blackish much. But I know the
What?
show. Yeah, I never really watched it like that, man.
Go watch it.
Okay.
I'm co-signing it. Go watch
Okay.
it.
Go
Hurry.
watch it.
Hurry.
Okay.
Watch it from the beginning. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's fucking, the writing is genius. You know, you got a black family that then came up, you know, mother's a doctor, the father's in advertising, but he's from the hood and from pro-black background with his mother and father. And he's in an affluent white neighborhood in an affluent white world and works with a lot of rich white people at his company. And he's saying all the things that we have thought being in those spaces. And it's so clever how they do it. And the mother, because she's half white, thinks he's over the top with his pro-black shit. And he thinks she just don't fucking get it because she don't
White.
have total black,
Right.
pro-black sensibilities.
Right.
And they did a spinoff. Well, they've had several spinoffs, but one of the spinoffs that I like is called Black as Fuck. And Black as Fuck starred the actual writer of Blackish.
Oh,
The
okay.
actual writer is playing himself.
Mm.
His wife is Quincy Jones' daughter. I forget her name, and I think she's one of the directors, if not the director of Blackish, but I forget her name. My mistake, my bad. It's called Black as Fuck, and it's like a comedy. It's like a parody of Blackish, but the parody is that in this one they say it literally. Like
Mm.
if he's feeling like these fucking white people, I can't believe he say it exactly that way. So I love Black as Fuck. I think it's fucking hilarious, but I
Okay.
think Blackish was genius. But Blackish was genius. You
Dope,
know.
man. Well, listen,
Yeah.
brother. I mean, I wish you luck on all that. I mean, you're a talented cat. You clearly can write, and going way back. So, to come back from, losing your damn album and re-recording that shit and rewriting that whole shit, like,
Yeah,
just, you know
yeah.
what I mean? That's crazy. I mean, that's some talent. That means that you really you can write, So,
This,
yeah, man. I wish
I'm
you
a
luck.
vessel. I'm a vessel. I remember this song. It's coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. Probably be out by the summer. It's fire too. It's called Demons and Deities. My man actually let me jump on it. It was his song. His full rap name is Nondescript. We just call him Script or Scripture.
Oh, script.
He,
Interesting
yeah, his
name.
name is Script. Full name Nondescript, and the single is Demons and Deities. If anybody out there, you can go through my IG thread, which is Big City IHB_, and you'll see. You can hear a little bit of the song when I was in the studio with him, all that. It's fire though. It's definitely a fire song. So I got that coming out. I got the song coming out with Dub L. I got the album, the unreleased album with Dangermouse coming out this summer. So I spoke about the sneaker. I'm trying not, because man, I be fucking forgetting shit. I be forgetting shit. I'll get right off in here and be
Yeah.
like, damn, I didn't say so and so. But yeah, but anybody can go check me out. If you want to hear my catalog, go on Facebook on Stone City Digital ENT Group. That's Stone City Digital ENT Group, a catalog of music that I've done over the years that I know most of y'all who have never heard of me, and many of y'all who are fans of my music have never heard these songs. So you can go on there and check me out. Like I said, my IG is Big City IHB. That's International Hood Boy _
Hey.
and you go check a bunch of stuff over there. My what the fuck else? There's so much social media. Yo, this social media be driving me crazy, insane, bro.
I heard you.
This keeping up with this social media shit.
I heard
There's a
you.
lot of Hennessy and weed on this brain right here, bro. A lot of deep books, Hennessy and weed
Right.
clogging up this vein right here. But Gemini the Gifted One is one of my IG pages. Um, Stone City Digital Meta Media is my other Facebook page, so you can check me out over there. And same thing on Twitter. Big City 20 is my Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, Big City 20, and Gemini Gifted One, not Gemini the Gifted One. Gemini Gifted One is my other Twitter page. So that's all my social media shit, and as much as I can remember.
Well, brother, listen, you've been very kind. I really appreciate you talking to us. You know what I mean? This is great. I can't wait for people to see this, man. I think this has been.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate being heard, man. You know, tell a friend, let people know I'm available for an interview, man. I'm still on this side of the dirt.
Hey, we'll end it at that.
I can't seem to find my way. I can't seem to find no direction.